Welcome to the Bridge Podcast, sponsored by the Spiritual Care Network, where we build bridges between mental health, addiction, recovery, the community, and faith. I'm your host, Chad Hampton. As a pastor and now behavioral health professional, I've had the privilege of walking alongside people through some of life's most difficult moments. And these experiences have shown me that real healing begins when we come together instead of working in silos. That's why this podcast exists. Here on The Bridge, we will talk about everyday issues that impact our lives, our families, and communities. We'll have honest conversations about mental health, addiction, recovery, faith, leadership, and the challenges that we all face. You will hear from individuals with lived experiences, clinicians, healthcare professionals, community leaders, and people of faith who believe we're better together than apart. Together, we'll seek to understand rather than simply being understood. We'll laugh. We'll wrestle with difficult topics. We'll debate. We'll challenge one another, but we'll do it respectfully and have authentic conversations that inspire hope, healing, and lasting change. My hope is that every episode you'll leave here encouraged, educated, enlightened, and empowered. Welcome to The Bridge. Welcome to the Bridge Podcast. I'm Chad Hampton, and this is where we build bridges between mental health, addiction, faith, community, and hopefully help have conversations that sometimes won't be easy but are desperately needed. And hopefully you'll leave this conversation being encouraged, educated, enlightened, and empowered. Today we're talking about suicide. And before we talk about statistics and diagnosis, I want us to remember this about suicide. Behind every number is a person, a son, a daughter, a husband, a wife, a mother, a father, and even a friend. And behind every loss to suicide are people whose lives are forever changed. According to the CDC, 48,824 individuals in 2024 died by suicide. But deaths don't tell the whole number. In 2024, 14.3 million Americans seriously considered suicide. 4.6 million had a suicide plan, and 2.2 million attempted suicide. Let's talk about adolescents. Ages 12 to 17, it is reported that 2.6 million adolescents and children considered suicide. 1.2 million children actually made a plan, and actually 700,000 attempted suicide in 2024. So with this topic, the day's topic is suicide when it becomes personal. And it's a story of loss, survival, and hope. And the person on this call, on this conversation today is my dear friend, Lynn Julian, who I've known for 10 years. Lynn, so glad to have you here on the Bridge.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
We have known each other, and we have had some of the deepest, darkest, most fun moments together.
We have. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart, Chad, because honestly, you were there for me when the tragedy came and the dark times came, and you were one of the lights that helped walk me through to the other side. So it's always a pleasure to spend time with you.
It's always an honor to be here. And I want to just tell about Lynn. We met about 10 years ago when she worked for youth villages. But Lynn, I'll just say this. She is a part of my tribe. You know, she's my sister from another mister. And she is definitely a blessing to me. And I always say this, with Lynn, I win, or with Lynn, I sin.
I really wish you dropped that second half of that.
I know. But Lynn, you're something else. Lynn has the it factor. You know, I always love talking about two things. Lynn has degrees, but she also has the temperature, the lived experience to go with it. And Lynn, I'll also say you have the it factor.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know. It's what a long, strange trip it's been.
You got it. You got it, girl. I'm telling you, you got it.
Well, thank you.
You got it so bad it's gross.
I'm not gross.
So, but we're talking about suicide today, and I brought you on.
It's a hard one.
Because of your journey. But I want us just to start this off, just tell us a little bit about yourself, because because you're not just your suicide journey. but you have so much beforehand. So tell us a little bit about who you are, from your adoption to where you got in the mental health field, and then we'll go into your journey.
All right. Well, I am originally from Central Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Grew up in Clinton. Go Arrows.
Yeah.
And I was adopted at birth. My parents came and picked me up when I was a week old and brought me home. And, I was born in 1964. There, I said it. It's out there. I'm 62 and a half years old.
You look fabulous.
Thank you. That's the grace of God, let me tell you.
Oh, I know it is.
But had I been born 8-9 years later, or had I been conceived, wouldn't be here. So that's the grace of God right there, number one. Number two, God absolutely planted me exactly where he wanted me to be with amazing parents, DeWitt and Mickey Landrum. And
tell us about your parents real quick. I just love your,
My daddy was my rock. He was the salt of the earth. He was one of the most gentle, kind, considerate, intelligent men I have ever known. And just so, he was just so good. He was just a good guy.
Give us his name.
DeWitt E. Landrum.
DeWitt E. Landrum.
He was wonderful.
And isn't that street named after your dad, Landrum?
Landrum Street. It's not my dad. That's my family.
Okay. Because I lived in Clinton, Mississippi too, from 1998, 2003.
That's extended family. And one day, if that street sign disappears, City of Clinton, I didn't do it.
Of course not.
Anyway, then my mom,
the Mixter,
Ethel Joyce. She hated that name, so her nickname was Mickey from childhood, and we called her Mickey. She was from originally Kenner, Louisiana.
Okay.
Right outside New Orleans. And she was a prodigy, musical prodigy. She was playing piano by ear, both hands, at age 4.
Wow.
And she was something else. She was something else. From her, I got my love of learning. And from her, I learned how to be one of the most judgmental people I've ever met in my entire life. But she was lovely. At the same time, she was so generous. She was so sweet.
But she was a piece.
But she's a piece of work.
She was a piece. I just got to tell Lynn, I can't just not touch this story. So when I first met Lynn, I was visiting my friends in Clinton, Mississippi, where I used to both pastor and live. And I said, I'm going to go visit your mother, because I did not know, but I used to go run by Lynn's house all the years that I was down there. So I went down to visit the Mixter, as we called her. And I'll never forget meeting your mother, and I had a good conversation with her, and I was about to leave, and I said, hey, let's take a selfie and send it to Lynn. And she said, why would I do that? She knows what I look like.
That was my mother.
That was your mother.
That was my mother.
But
so, growing up, I did have some childhood trauma.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Sexually abused by a family acquaintance.
How old were you?
Those memories are a little bit cloudy. I'm wanting to say 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, maybe. And so when that happens to you, it colors everything. It changes everything. And your perception of how to be truly accepted and what love really looks like are skewed.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to get over that. So I had all that growing up, because I would always have one foot in the youth group at church and going on the youth trips and being in the youth choir, and loved it and enjoyed it. But I would also have the other foot in the partying crowd. And, it's never a good thing when you come to school your senior year and you had been out on a Friday night and you are getting spoken to by people that you don't normally get spoken to, and they're commenting on how much fun you had in the bowling alley parking lot. So that was traumatic. And all that stemmed from, just not knowing who I was.
But do you think that since you mentioned it, do you think that sexual trauma, that abuse, you really never talked about that with anybody? You didn't talk about it back then?
No, I got my parents sent me to therapy when I was like 19 because I was seriously depressed. First
Really?
time in my life I was seriously
Right.
suicidal. And they sent me to therapy, and I played with it. I didn't really want to be there, didn't
Right.
want to deal with
Your stuff.
the stuff because there's so much shame that goes along with that, because the internalized idea and faulty thought is that it was my fault,
It was your fault.
that somehow I invited that. And when I turned 27, my son was like 5, and it got to be too much. I had gotten into a relationship with a very narcissistic person.
Wow.
And that if you have ever dealt with narcissistic abuse, the gaslighting and the, it's all your fault and you're crazy and
You're the one causing all this.
you're the one causing all the problems.
You're doing this to me.
Yes.
And I'm acting this way because you did this to me.
And it just got to be too much.
Right.
And so another way that God has been there the whole time, he made sure that I was working for a psychiatric hospital doing admission assessments.
Okay.
And I called my boss on a Friday and said, hey, I won't be at work on Monday. I'm not going to be here anymore. And she very wisely dug into those comments and found out that I did have a plan. It wasn't a great plan, but it was a plan. Nonetheless,
When you say a plan to take
to
your
kill
life?
myself. Yes, to die by suicide. And no, it wasn't a great plan. I was going to get in my car, take my son to my mother's house, drive till I ran out of gas, walk till I couldn't walk anymore, then lay down and die. Not a great plan.
But it still was a plan.
But it still was a plan, and I still meant it. And
what happened?
she said, you sit right there. And she called me back in about 20 minutes and said, you will be admitted to the hospital tomorrow. It is covered. You will have no charge.
Wow.
You just need to get down there and get better.
Yeah.
And that's when I was 27. And the ex-husband, as we're driving down there, says to me, well, you need to get better for yourself because I don't know if I'll be here when you get out.
Okay, so you were basically told that your relationship is ending potentially
Yeah.
right before you're being admitted to a hospital because you wanted to commit suicide and had a plan.
Wasn't that awesome?
Wow.
But you know what? Again, God used that
Sure.
because I knew I had to do it for myself. I couldn't do it for
And that's
anybody
true.
else.
You have to do it for yourself.
You do.
Right.
You do. And so I get to the hospital. They do all the testing. We did the Rorschach and we did all the things. And they let me go to my room by myself, not on suicide watch.
Right.
Door was shut, everything.
Okay.
It's all God. And I'm sitting there, and Chad, I don't know any way to describe it except I was at the bottom of a dark black pit, and there was no light.
Yeah.
And there was no hope.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was utterly and completely and devastatingly alone in the world.
Yeah.
I had nothing left, nothing. And thank God my parents had me in church, and I did know who Jesus was.
Yeah.
I knew who he was.
Yeah.
And sitting in that room by myself, I cried out and I said, oh, Lord, please,
Yes.
please come help me. I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And in that moment, the minute the words came out of my mouth, it was like peace was dumped out of a bucket, ran from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet.
Wow.
And it was like the darkness opened up and there was light and there
Something.
was hope.
Yeah.
And
God came down.
God came down. And in that moment, I met my Savior, personally met my Savior for the very first time.
Wow.
And I heard him say, don't be afraid, I'll make everything new. And that's when I was 27.
Wow.
And it's been different since
It's been different
then.
since.
It's been different since
I think
then.
that's what, this talk is about mental health, suicide, but we also combine faith. And I always talk about salvation, and and I have had many conversations, and I think salvation really is the best way to describe it. You know, some people say, "Am I saved?" or this. When I describe salvation, I describe it as like something that's hooked in my heart and it's pulling me.
Yes,
it's pulling me, and it's a hook that hasn't let go of me.
Yes,
and I think through trials and through struggles and sins and failures, whatever, that hook that God has had me in his hand and is pulling my heart, and I'm pulled toward him.
Yes, he's always there.
It's a pull.
And our spirit can touch his.
That's right.
You know, even when we don't feel it, even when,
that's right,
you know, going through a dark night of the soul, which I honestly have been recently, he's still there.
Yeah.
And he still loves us.
He does. Thank you for sharing that. I know you got in the mental health field not too long after that.
I was already in it.
Oh, you already in it.
At the time,
that's right. But
actually, yeah, I've been in mental health my entire adult life. My undergraduate degree is social work.
Yeah.
And then about 3 years after that, I went to graduate school and got a master's in Christian counseling at ORU.
Yep.
And no, we did not swing from chandeliers nor jump over pews.
That's okay.
But I got an excellent education.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that my whole adult life.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned two things that I want to bring out right now, two statements that you just mentioned right now. You mentioned when I was 27 and my son was 5.
Yeah.
I want you to what was his name?
His name was Clifton Michael.
Clifton Michael. And then I also want you to talk. And then you also mentioned the long, dark night of the soul.
Yes.
And so we've sort of set this conversation up, but I want us to talk about Clifton, and I want you to talk about your long, dark night of the soul, and Clifton and Bailey.
Yeah. My son, he was my only child. Gosh, I hate using that past tense.
I know.
He was so smart. And that's not just a mama saying it. He truly was very intelligent. He had a curious mind. He loved to learn. He was hysterically funny. Could have been a stand-up comedian. He really could. Generous, loyal. But you know, he had some things happen when he was a kid. He got bullied a lot as a child, and
I didn't know that.
He did, and that affected him. So for the people that really don't think bullying has a long-term effect, I beg to differ.
Yeah.
So, you know, we moved around a lot when he was a kid, and he was always having to make new friends. And unfortunately, he played, not unfortunately that he played football, because as you well know, I'm a football fanatic and am counting down the days until football season starts.
Alabama, God
Roll
bless.
Tide. He got injured in a football game his sophomore year.
Okay.
And it was pretty severe ankle injury.
Mm-hmm.
And he got prescribed opioid pain medications.
Which ones? I know opioids can be a lot. Which one do you remember?
He was, I want to say it was Lortabs.
Lortabs, okay.
I want to say it was Lortabs.
And what year was this? Around what year?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Don't
the
get me to
90s?
line. It was in the 90s.
Okay.
Yes, back when it was.
Commonplace.
Oh, yes.
You pass it out like candy.
Oh, yes. Because, you know, we all bought the untruth that if you're in pain, it's metabolized differently and you can't get addicted to it.
That's right.
We all believe that. And he, I didn't know it at the time, but I found out later he was already smoking weed.
Right.
So that started a lifelong pattern of addiction. Mm-hmm. And he inherited from me his good looks and intelligence, but he also got from me an anxiety disorder.
Okay.
And you add to that the post-traumatic stress disorder that he experienced watching the narcissistic abuse that I was going through with his ex-stepfather.
Did your ex-husband physically abuse you? or more
Only
mental?
a couple of times,
More
but there
mental and
was
verbal?
very loud verbal.
Sure, and it affects.
And
It affects children.
Oh, absolutely, it affects children.
It's traumatic.
It is very traumatic. And, he struggled. He struggled. Got in trouble for having Xanax at school. Got in trouble for dealing. Got in trouble for domestic assault with one of his girlfriends, and spent some time in jail.
Did he really?
He spent some time in jail.
How old was he? Was he in jail?
He was in his early 20s.
Early 20s, okay.
Yeah. But then, he ended up moving to Northern California and met a really sweet girl, beautiful girl. She was gorgeous.
Yes, she was.
She was gorgeous. Her name was Bailey. And, they had the potential to be really good together, Chad. But their relationship was based on using together. And so when one of them, recovering from bronchitis, when one of them would try to get better and stop,
the other one
would need to pull them back into that. They needed each other to be sick. It was a very toxic relationship.
And would you say they were trauma bonded?
Yes, I would say they were trauma bonded.
It's amazing how we find that couples or a lot of relationships are unhealthy because they're not based on health. They're based on need.
Yes.
And when there's a relationship is based on need,
yes.
Don't you think that usually creates a very unhealthy situation?
Absolutely, it does.
But it still feels right, though.
To them, it feels very right.
Because you're getting a need met, but it's actually unhealthy.
But it's unhealthy because, the two greatest commandments: love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind.
That's right.
Love your neighbor how?
As you love yourself.
As you love yourself. Jesus knew.
That's right.
That we can't have real, genuine relationship unless we know who we are in Him and how to love ourselves.
That's right.
Through His love. And they just didn't have that.
That's right.
My son grew up in church. He knew who Jesus was. He had relationship with Jesus. But when there's drugs on board and there's that need and that trauma that hasn't been treated, it doesn't go well. So they had two beautiful children, my sweet, sweet grandboys.
Their names?
Caleb and Jordan.
I've met them. They're very cute.
They are precious. They're not babies anymore.
No, they're not.
And they tried. Honestly, Chad, Cliff and Bailey tried.
Yeah.
But the last 2 years of their lives, it was just, you were there.
Yeah.
It was hell.
Yeah.
It was hell for everybody. I was, in a relationship at that time with the love of my life. He is my soulmate.
Right. Y'all are married.
We're married.
And Cliff and Bailey were married.
And Cliff and Bailey were married.
Right.
Yeah. That was because the mixer made them get married.
Right.
Yeah.
You can be married and still have trauma and still struggle with abuse and still struggle with addictions.
Oh, heck yeah.
And they all believed in the Lord, correct?
Yeah, everybody.
Love the Lord.
Everybody loved the Lord.
Yes.
That wasn't the problem.
Right.
And, they tried to do it without going to treatment. And then finally in January of 2018, they decided they needed to go to treatment. Well, we finally managed to get them into treatment at a facility. He went to one, she went to the other, because by this time they had lost custody of the kids.
Because you were raising them right
to
now.
me.
Correct.
And, we tried every way in the world to avoid that, but we couldn't. And so they basically, got told, go to treatment and get better so you can have your children back.
Mm-hmm.
He went to one facility and she went to another. Sorry. And he got out in late April or early May, actually. And for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
For 3 weeks, I saw glimpses of my son again and not the addict. But he was struggling.
Yeah.
He was struggling because, when people get into recovery, sometimes if there's lots of trauma and lots of things that they've done, they they start to see for the first time the havoc that they've wreaked in their lives and in other people's lives, because they're not masking it anymore. They're not covering it up anymore. And I think that's what was going on with him.
Right.
And then she got out, and because not because of her, but because their relationship was just so toxic, they had both relapsed within a day or two.
Right.
I honestly couldn't tell you. And then on the night of June the 2nd of 2018, he and I had our last fight. And it got physical, because I'd had it. I was done. I wasn't tolerating it no more, you know. And he looked at me as I was getting ready to leave, and he looked at me, and then he stared off into space, and he said, "You're going to die alone." And I said, "Good. I'd rather do that than have to put up with any more of this stuff." It's not wording I use, but I'm
sure.
And about an hour and a half after that, I left. He tried to text me and apologize. I wasn't hearing it. You know, I still have those texts in my phone. I'll never probably read them, but I just can't delete them. And he called me at about 10:45 because my glasses had come off in the melee. And I was so amped up, I didn't even realize it. And he said, "I've got your glasses." And I said, "Well, put them in the mailbox. I'll get them tomorrow. I don't want to talk to you." And he sat there for a minute, and he said, "Cremate me." And I said, "Okie doke." And he sat there another minute, and he said, "Bye, Mama." And I said, "Bye, son." And we hung up. And about 20 minutes later, I sent him a text and said, "You know, I love you. Let's talk tomorrow. We'll figure all this out." I never heard from him. And at 3:30-ish, I sat straight up in the bed and said, "I don't have a son anymore." Couldn't go back to sleep for a while. And then the phone rang at about 8:50. And it was Bailey, and I couldn't understand a word she was saying. And all I could get was, "He's dead." So I jumped in my car, ran down to the little house where they were living, and he had hung himself. And I'll never forget walking over and touching his hand.
Yeah.
And it was cold.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I stared at the wall, noticed a spot where the kids had used markers to write on the wall.
Yeah.
And time stopped.
Yeah.
Literally, the world stopped spinning. That's the only way I can describe it. It stopped spinning. And then I turned and looked at him again, and it started to spin again. So we called 911, and we did all the things. And then I had to, the next day, drive to Mississippi to tell my mother in person that her only grandchild was gone. And then we had to have the funeral, and then we got Bailey back to treatment because obviously she was not doing well.
Yes.
And she got out of treatment and was supposed to go to residential treatment.
Right.
And never went. Couldn't get her to go.
Right.
And my son died on June the 3rd. On June the 26th, walked into the house, and she had done the exact same thing in the exact same spot. And the only difference was she was still alive.
Yeah.
And my sweet friend, Philip Barham,
Yep.
who was the only person I could think of that could be in Jackson that, might have a minute to go with me, was there, and we were able to get her down, and we're able to do, Bailey's the only human being I've ever done CPR on.
Wow.
And we were able, EMS got there, we did CPR till they got there, and they were able to get a heartbeat back.
Right.
But she was pronounced the next day of anoxic brain injury. Yeah. She'd been up too long. But God showed up. God showed up after Cliff died.
Yeah.
God showed up after Bailey died.
Right.
Because Chad, in the span of the 1 month after my son died, I saw 5 rainbows. 5.
Right.
One of them specifically I remember because I had run to the beach, because the beach is my healing place.
Yes.
And I'm driving down the beach road between Orange Beach and Gulf Shores, Alabama, and I was talking to Cliff.
Yeah.
Saying, you wouldn't believe, because we lived down there for a little while at one point, you wouldn't believe how it's grown, you wouldn't believe. And in the sky ahead of me is the most beautiful, brilliant rainbow.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, I know, I remember, and I want to stay there just a little bit, because Lynn, most people have not walked the walk you walked. Most people have not lost a son and a daughter-in-law by suicide within the same month. Most people, through suicide and addiction and mental health, it all comes together.
All came together.
It all works together. And then how you've had to walk through it. I remember on June 3rd when I got a call, I was down in about Lucedale, Mississippi, when you called me. You called me, and I was driving back up from Mobile, Alabama, and you shared the loss.
See, I don't remember
Cliff.
that.
And I remember talking, and then just your journey. Because most people, I know you said God was in it. Yes, he was. But at times, sometimes in the middle of a pain and abject loss, when you literally had a soul tsunami, a tsunami like the tsunami of 2004 that literally killed 250,000, literally wiped everything out that you knew.
Yes.
Everything that you knew that found comfort in your identity, everything. Can you talk a little bit about just how you survived that moment and how long, and talk about a little bit of that?
Sure. Because when you experience a loss like that, especially a loss by suicide, you are never going to be the same. You just literally can't be. And for a long time, I carried a lot of guilt and a lot of shame that I've had to work through, because I was a mental health professional and I could not save my son. Now,
talk about that.
I've worked through that and for people who have lost people to suicide, ultimately, in the end, it's their decision to leave. It's their decision to leave.
So you're saying that people can't prevent someone from committing suicide?
Oh, absolutely. We can prevent it. We can
help,
prevent it. We can help. But ultimately, if they end up completing that act, it was their choice.
Right.
We can stop it. We can intervene, you know. And one of the reasons, another guilt that I had to work through with my son is he had said, I just want to die. I'm just going to kill myself. So many times since he was a teenager.
Right.
That eventually I didn't hear him anymore. And that's one caution that I would give to anybody that's out there that's dealing with someone who does have some mental health issues. No matter how many times they say it, always pay attention. Always try to intervene, because the one time I didn't, the one time I didn't. So I've had to work through that. Always listen when you see someone is struggling, when they make that statement, always listen.
What should you say when someone says, I want to commit suicide or I want to die? Or what would you advise someone if a loved one or a friend shared something? What would you advise? Or in the moment?
Well, I would ask very specific questions. Tell me more. Tell me more. Not necessarily why. Tell me more about this. I can see that you're hurting. I want to help you.
Right.
I want to help you. And then listen to what they're saying. Don't listen to formulate, oh, well, no, it's going to be fine. No.
But don't try to make it fine.
Don't try to make it fine.
Listen.
Acknowledge the fact, yes, acknowledge the fact that they're hurting enough to think about leaving. And then offer to help them get help. Ask the question directly. And a lot of people are scared to ask that question because they think if they ask, it's going to, and the thought wasn't in the person's mind, that it's going to put it in their mind. Absolutely not. Because
so that old adage is not true.
That is not true. That's one of the myths. If I ask you if you are thinking about killing yourself and I immediately get back a no, yeah, I'm upset about some stuff, but no, absolutely not. Okay, that's good. If I ask you, and you're not going to go, well, maybe that sounds like a great idea. Maybe I ought to think about that. You're going to be glad somebody asked you the question.
Right.
If I say, are you thinking about killing yourself? I see that you're sad. I see that you're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Are you thinking about dying? Do you want to die? And I get even a 2-second hesitation when I ask that question of someone, I'm going to dig further.
Well, I know that, and I know you've lived this out in the past 10 years that I've known you, because I can truly say you've asked me that question because you've walked through some of my deepest, darkest pains with me. And I know we say when we're hurting, when people are hurting, they say things because they're voicing out their pain.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes life does, I'm sure you know this, life does would seem to be better if I would be dead, like George Bailey. I'm worth more dead than alive.
Yes.
And sometimes you just say that. And George Bailey didn't want to die from It's Wonderful Life, but it was so bad. The pain of the moment spoke louder than the potential of the promise of a future.
Yes. Most people who attempt suicide are trying to end the pain. They want cessation of pain, and this is the only thing that they see. It's the tunnel vision sets in, and this is the only solution that they can see. And I understand.
Suicide, I know we've heard this say, suicide is a permanent solution
to a temporary problem.
Can we say that together?
Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Yes. If you stay, there can be relief and there can be help if you stay.
But you do have to you have to risk it.
But you do have to risk it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the fact that, because see, a lot of people who lose people to suicide, you're never going to get the why. You're never going to know the answer completely to the why did they do this? Why did they?
Has that plagued you?
No, not after about the first year, because I knew my son really well. We were close.
Right. Yes, you were.
And I understand. He truly, in that moment, and there were drugs on board, Chad.
He had drugs in his system.
He had drugs in his system, multiple.
Right. Which can alter your mind and
absolutely.
Your feelings and your perceptions and everything.
People who use substances, I think, are 10 to 12 times more likely to die by suicide than
you
the
said
general.
10 to 12 more times?
I believe I'm right about that.
More likely to commit suicide if they have substances or some kind of addiction.
Yes, to die by suicide, because the things in your brain that tell you, wait a second, stop, there is another answer, are not working real well when you've got substances on board. So there was that with him. He truly believed that everybody would be better off
Right.
if he wasn't here anymore.
Yeah.
And he was so tired of being in
trying.
pain and of trying and failing and trying and failing. And there was so much shame that it all.
And then disappointing you, I think, that
disappointing
night.
me.
The disappointment probably
Yes.
would have been so hard because he loved you that much.
Oh, yeah, we loved each other. Yeah. And the thought that I was going to cut him off, because I told him, lose my number, don't call me till you go get help.
But for you as a parent, sometimes you have to lay those boundaries, hard boundaries down.
Do, and it's tricky. And I was never able to do that until that night. And then I didn't do it well. I joined him in his chaos because I thought you could love somebody out of addiction. I thought, love conquers all, and
The more you support and help, they'll get better.
right. And they need support and they need help, but they need boundaries.
Right.
And I stunk at boundaries. And some of that was because of my past.
Right.
How it was a perfect storm, and it all came together. But I do want to go back to, if we can,
Yes.
how I made it through it.
Well, no, I do. I want you to talk about how you made it through it, and then also I want to talk about grief as well for the people who've
Yes.
lost. So I do, because your journey of making it through, because your journey, you were still employed.
Had to work too,
You had to
because I
work.
was separated. Yeah.
And much all that loss had to work, and just everything that's happened to you during that time. Yes, please tell us about your recovery.
I can tell you right now that the first couple of months were blur. Grief brain is real. It is an actual condition, and it is your brain struggling to get back to some kind of baseline functioning and make sense of the loss.
Right.
It is really struggling
Yeah.
to make sense of all that, and it is searching for the thing that was supposed to be permanent that's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So like I was telling you the other day, I would be getting ready to go to work, try to get dressed, and I would find myself standing in front of my closet, and 10 minutes had gone by and I had no idea.
You were just lost.
I was just lost. I was just staring because things would replay.
Right.
I spent a lot of that first year and I couldn't stop it. And it would just pop in my head for random reasons.
Right.
Or I'd hear a song, or, oh, dude, go to the grocery store to do the shopping. And I bought a lot of groceries for them, at the end. And I'd be going down the cereal aisle because Cliff loved to eat cereal. And
What was his favorite cereal?
he liked Lucky Charms a lot. He loved Captain Crunch with the Crunch Berries.
I do too.
He didn't really like to eat a lot of healthy cereal.
That's okay.
And he would get a big salad bowl, and eat half the box at one time. Anyway, I'd be in the cereal aisle and just burst into tears.
Yeah.
I mean, boo-hoo sobbing.
Yeah.
And people are walking around me like, this woman needs to be in a mental institution.
Right. They just didn't know. You never know what
No,
someone's
you
dealing
never
with.
know what
You never know
somebody's
what
dealing
someone's
with.
dealing with.
Go out to go make my rounds for work and catch myself driving in circles, literally driving in circles for an hour and not have gone anywhere, and forget, and couldn't sleep. Insomnia is part of it. Would forget to eat.
Yeah.
It would be 7:00 at night, and I would stop, or my roommate, Kelly, that I was living with, would go, "Did you eat today?" No. Forget to eat. Literally just.
You had grief brain.
I had grief brain.
And I think you did a talk, and grief brain basically is grief is sitting in the middle of the space.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's like a ball. And then
Ball in the box, yes.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yes. If you can imagine that your life is a box, and inside the box is a red, on one side of the box is a red grief button.
Mm-hmm.
And then the loss is a great big ball that's inside the box. And when you shake the box, or when life is happening right after the loss, there's really nowhere for that ball to go. So pretty much everything is going to slam that ball into that grief button. And it takes time. And you know, when people say, oh, yes, it will get better with time.
Right.
It's really true. It does
Right.
get easier to carry. But the ball
It's still there.
is still there, but it will shrink a little bit.
Right. But it's still going to be there.
But it's still going to be there.
Because you don't ever get over a death.
Oh, no. That was one of the things.
What is that?
When people would say, well, it's been a year and a half.
Oh.
You need to just, move on. It's time to move. Because one of the things that I did that helped was I talked about my son.
Yes.
You know I did.
Yes, you did.
I talked about Cliff and I shared memories about him. And with the people that could handle it, I talked about all the events that led up to what happened. And I processed the actual event of it happening. And fortunately, I had people in my tribe that were, aware of themselves enough and of how to help that I could do that. But I learned real quick who not to talk to as well, because some people can't handle it, and that's okay. You got to give them grace. But talking about my son, journaling, when I ran away to the beach right after he died, I have a little notebook, and I wrote down in that notebook everything that happened. Getting it out on paper. I highly recommend that. A couple months into it, one of my BFFs, Jennifer, called me and asked me how I was doing, and I was like, I don't know. Because at the time, I would go to work, I would come home, I would eat supper, and turn the lights off and binge every dark thing on television I could find. Criminal Minds, Ghost Hunters, every dark.
Right.
Because I felt life was just so dark.
Yeah.
And I was feeding that.
Feeding that spirit.
And Jennifer said, okay, I'm sick of this. She can talk to me that way.
Everybody needs
talk to me.
Everybody needs a Jennifer in their
Everybody
lives.
needs a Jennifer.
Or a Chad.
Or a Chad. Or an Anita. Anita
Yes.
was another one that was always there and always solid. She said, are you in your word? Are you reading the Bible?
Yeah.
And I was a little.
Sure.
I said, She said, no. Get in your word every single day.
Yeah.
Every day. Number 2, what are you listening to?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was Metallica. It was, the heavier stuff, which I love anyway and would listen to no matter what.
Sure.
But I was gravitating towards the darker. And she said, no, get in your car, get it on the satellite, the Message,
Sure.
or K-Love, and don't turn it off that.
Yeah.
And she said, get your booty out of the house and be around people.
Yeah.
And that is probably advice that saved my life.
Yeah.
Because by doing that, it was interesting to me, Chad, because as I started to read the scripture, it was alive to me in a way it had never been before. God knew what I needed, and it would just things I'd read a billion times.
Yeah.
Jumping off the page at me. Jumping off the page.
Well, it's amazing how, God knows who you need in your life when you need it.
Yes.
And he also knows, and then when we have pain in our life, that's when his power and purpose can come in if we're open.
If we're open and we allow it. Yes.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Were you ever angry at God?
No.
Okay, so and that's good. 'Cause
No.
Not everybody's that. Some people get angry.
Some people do,
but,
and I can
but
understand
in your
that.
situation, you were not.
No, I guess I was blessed in that I saw him as merciful.
I got you. Yeah.
Because I had prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that God would heal my family.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah.
Just not the way I thought.
Because
they're not in pain anymore.
They're with the Lord.
They're with the Lord. I know this to be true. That's another thing people have said to me is that, well, people who die by suicide go to hell.
I do want to talk about that because that is the elephant in the room in the faith communities.
It can be. There are certain.
Because, you know, the way we were raised, and of course, the way I was raised in most Western Christianity, we have a view that if someone committed suicide, well, you're in hell.
Yes.
How did you deal with that? And then talk about that theology and, you know, behind that.
God helped me with that the day my son died, because I was freaking out.
Yes.
Freaking out that he was separated from the Lord for eternity.
Right.
And I called Jennifer, and she came. She dropped what she was doing, and she came. And she loves the Lord. She has a strong relationship with God. And when she got there and got out of her car, she walked up to me. She grabbed me by the shoulders, and she said, "Look at me and listen.
Yeah.
God told me to tell you that Cliff is with him right now," because God knew that I was about to come unglued.
Sure.
I was going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
And so that gave me the assurance.
Of course.
And as I had time to think about it, God doesn't punish people who are sick.
But most people don't think a person with mental illness or suicidal ideation is sick. That's what a lot of us don't really realize.
They're ill. They're ill.
Because you have to be in pain, and you're so sick that you're willing to take your life.
Well, like my friend Kelly said, "Lynn, you know, I've thought about it." Because she was another one I could talk to and process with. She said, it's like Cliff had stage 4 cancer.
Right.
He was sick. He was dealing with an illness.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
And mental illness is real. I mean, it's no different than high blood pressure, diabetes. It's just in your brain.
Right.
Because, you know, the chemistry, the brain chemistry is off, and the neural pathways that have been created by years and years of drug use and years of negativity, those are very, very real. And it needs to be diagnosed, and it needs to be managed. It's an illness. Yeah. So, you know, God.
How did you handle that when someone says things, or how did you respond? Or how did you?
Well, I want to say, when people say that to me, I want to say, why would you take that from me? Why would you say that to someone who's grieving a suicide loss? What difference does it make? Let them have that comfort.
Sure.
You know, if I get to heaven and I find out it's not right, oh, fine, but don't do that.
I think we judge too much. You know, I always
people
think
mean well.
They do mean well. People are just but ignorant. I think.
Yes,
I always heard someone say, "We'll be very surprised when we get to heaven. Who's going to be there?"
Oh, sure.
I have some people. I think.
Thank God it ain't my choice.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, so that's
yeah
how I came to deal with that. It's
well. I wanted to give weight to this and weight to your story. So we've talked about Cliff and Bailey. We've talked about your journey growing up. We've talked about the grief and how you work through this. But let's talk about where you're at today and what you're doing today.
Okay.
And as we close our time out. Because where you're at today is a redeeming story.
Amen.
And what you're doing. So share about that redeeming journey.
You know, God's had his hand in it every step of the way. It's been 8 years, 2 months, and what's today?
The 8th.
The 8th. 5 days. Mm-hmm. And I can honestly say that while I wish my son was here,
yeah,
there has been such beauty that has come from that loss.
Yes.
And I'm grateful that God has shown himself to be so real.
Yeah.
Through all of this. I would not have the relationship with Jesus that I have today.
Yeah.
Had my son not gone.
Yeah.
It's not why he went.
Yeah.
But it is a piece of beauty from the ashes that the Lord has pulled. Yes. Gratitude for me has been greater than grief. Gratitude helps heal the brain. It helped heal mine a lot more quickly than it would have, I think, because gratitude trains our brain. It creates the new neural pathways.
Yeah.
And we see the positive much more than we see the negative because our brain is actually looking for it.
That's right.
So that's how gratitude
Yep.
has helped me to get where I'm at today. And it's definitely a journey, and not till I go home will it be over. But God has humbled me. Oh, I was an arrogant so-and-so, and God has humbled me and shown me the beauty of love and unconditional love, because there is literally nothing I can do, Chad, that's going to ever make me worthy. Nothing I can do. And yay, I don't have to worry about that anymore.
That's right.
Because he loves me anyway.
On your best day and worst day, he loves you just
On my best day
same.
and my worst day.
Just the same.
And with every fault I've got, he loves me.
Yes.
Oh, wow. That is an epiphany.
Yes.
He orders my steps, because I lived the first 3 years after Cliff died horrified to walk outside his will.
Yeah.
Couldn't make a decision because I was so terrified.
Yes.
And then he said, you know what? You're seeking me. I'll guide you.
Yeah.
And so a year ago in July, he arranged for me to go meet the wonderful people at Hustle Recovery.
Okay. You said Hustle Recovery?
Hustle Recovery. Hustle stands for How You Survive This Life Every Day.
Say that again.
How you survive this life every day.
Hustle Recovery.
Hustle Recovery. And the goal is to get our folks that come to hustle with us to hustle after the recovery like they hustled after the
substances.
The
or alcohol.
substances, yeah.
Wow.
So
what do you do?
I met them. God dropped it in my spirit last July. You're going to be involved. He arranged for me to get laid off from my job last September.
Yeah.
I got offered to work with Hustle in November of last year, and I help with my team. We run the Respite House for Hustle Recovery in West Tennessee. We serve the Memphis area. We serve all of West Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And in Respite, what we do, if someone's ready for treatment,
mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter what kind of insurance they've got. It doesn't matter how much money they have. It doesn't matter if they have transportation or not. If you call our Respite House and you are ready for help, we'll come pick you up. We'll bring you to the Respite House. We'll feed you pretty well at supper time.
I love it.
We'll help you figure out exactly what level of care that you need. And then we will navigate. We work on a navigation model. We will navigate you to where you need to go, and we'll take you there.
That's amazing.
We absolutely love it. It is such a blessing. It is boots on the ground, and sometimes it's like,
I've seen a life in you since you joined this program and started working for Hustle. I've seen a life in you that I haven't seen in a long time.
It's a blessing from God is what it is.
And is there something special about the name of the house or the room?
The day that, and that's a whole story that we could get into that we don't have time for, how we found the house. But the day that we signed the lease, Troy Sandifer, our wonderful CEO, came over, and John Hughes,
mm-hmm.
our COO, and we signed the lease. We prayed over the house.
I love it.
Before we signed it, and as we're standing in the parking lot before they went home, I told Troy that since not long after my son and daughter-in-law died, I've had a dream of having a place where people could come and get better and get into recovery and get what they need.
Yes.
And I wanted to call it Cliff and Bailey's Place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told Troy that, and I said, because Hustle names all of its houses.
Of course.
I said, Troy, can we call it Cliff and Bailey's Place?
Mm.
And he said, I like it. Yeah. So I get to, when I tell my story with clients, when it's appropriate, I get to say, welcome to Cliff and Bailey's Place.
Yes.
Because not long before Cliff died, before he went to treatment, he said, Mom, I've had the best talk with Jesus I've had in a long time. And he told me, if I'll go take advantage of this opportunity, that he will use my story to change lives.
Yes.
And I said, well, then you better go take advantage of the opportunity, right, son? And he's not here, but I still am.
Yeah.
And until I draw my last breath,
Yes.
I will tell his story, and I will do everything within my power to help people get into recovery and recover from mental illness that might potentially lead to a suicide attempt, because that's how I honor my son.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable. One last question for you. What gives you hope for today? Is it one little simple answer? What gives you hope for today?
Jesus.
Jesus.
Just the fact that he, again, loves me so despite how big, fat a sinner I am. And
Right.
he's not going to stop. And, you know, just being so grateful to him and knowing that he's got me and he can guide and look, if he'll do it for me, that's the beautiful piece. He'll do it for anybody, because I'm certainly not worthy.
Yeah.
And he loves all of us that much.
Yes.
And he will provide and he will guide.
Yeah.
And that's what gives me hope, is knowing he's there.
Yeah. I love that, Lynn.
Yeah.
Lynn, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your experience, strength, and hope.
Thank you for letting me.
And Hustle Recovery, what's the best way for them to contact y'all?
You can call, if you're looking for help with respite, you can call our house in Jackson. We have 3 now. We cover the whole state.
Okay.
In West Tennessee, it's 615-854-5393. If you want to know more about other Hustle programs, you can go to hustlerecovery.org. is our website, because we have a PHP program with housing. We have a fabulous work program.
Wonderful.
That's 6 months. We have sober living houses. We're doing all the things.
That's
It's
amazing.
That's a whole nother podcast. We could
I
talk
know.
about.
I know. We could talk
And
forever.
there are other people much more qualified to talk about it than me.
No.
But Hustle's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, and you can call 833-HUSTLE-5.
Thank you so much, Lynn. And today we've been talking about suicide, the real story, talking about when it touches the family and the individuals and how to survive it. Suicide doesn't end pain, guys. It changes where the pain lives. It leaves behind a lot of times questions, memories, grief, and lives that will never be the same again. But Lynn's story reminds us that loss does not have to be the final chapter. There can still be purpose. There can be connection. There can be healing, and there is still hope. Lynn, thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for your trusting us with your story, your family. Thank you for sharing your journey with everyone. Thank you for being a part of the Bridge podcast today. We're about building bridges between mental health, addiction, community, and faith. And we hope you've been encouraged, educated, enlightened. Thank you so much, and God bless. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Bridge and that you are leaving feeling encouraged, educated, enlightened, and empowered. If you'd like to learn more about The Bridge, the Spiritual Care Network, or my work as a treatment placement specialist, connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook by searching Chad Hampton. You can also visit our website, spiritualcarenet.org. And to learn more about the podcast, upcoming events, and our mission of building bridges between mental health, addiction, recovery, the community, and faith. Until next time, keep building bridges, sharing hope, and connecting people to healing. I'm Chad Hampton. Be blessed.
The views, opinions, and discussions shared on The Bridge are those of hosts and guests and are intended for educational and informational purposes only. They do not necessarily reflect the official views, policies, or positions of Acadia Healthcare, the Spiritual Care Network, their affiliates, employers, partners, or any organization our guests may represent. This podcast is not a substitute for professional medical, mental health, legal, or clinical advice. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, please contact a qualified healthcare professional, call 911, or your local emergency services immediately.